Today, we're diving into some of the most chilling and mysterious cold cases handled by the FBI. These cases remain unsolved even after years or decades of investigation. Some involve disappearances, others involve murder, but all of them have left behind questions that still haunt investigators, families, and communities. The case of Amy Lynn Bradley. Amy Lynn Bradley was a 23-year-old woman from Virginia. In 1998, she went on a Caribbean cruise with her family. On March 24th, she was last seen early in the morning on the balcony of her room. But when her family woke up, Amy was gone. The cruise ship was searched, but there was no sign of her. Authorities believe she may have been abducted. Over the years, there have been multiple possible sightings of Amy in the Caribbean. Some witnesses claim she was being forced into prostitution. The FBI has offered a reward of other information, but to this day, Amy remains missing. The disappearance of Asha Degree. Asha Degree was just 9 years old when she disappeared from her home in Shelby, North Carolina on February 14, 2000. Her parents last saw her asleep in her room. But around 4 a.m., she left the house alone in the middle of a stormy night. A few people saw a girl matching her description walking along the highway, but no one knows why she left. About a year later, her backpack was found buried in plastic bags, 26 miles away from her home. Despite many leads and ongoing efforts by the FBI and local law enforcement, Asha's case remains unsolved. The Long Island serial killer. For over a decade, police and the FBI have been trying to solve the case of the Long Island serial killer. The case came to light in 2010 when the remains of multiple women were found along Ocean Parkway in New York. All the victims were sex workers who had advertised online. Most of the bodies were hidden in burlap sacks. To date, the remains of at least 10 victims have been found, and some may be connected to the same killer. Although they have been arrested in 2023, many believe the full story has not yet come out, and some of the murders remain unsolved. The D.B. Cooper hijacking. In 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper hijacked a Northwest Orient Airlines flight. He claimed to have a bomb and demanded cash and parachutes. After getting what he asked for, he jumped out of the plane over Washington State and vanished. Despite an intense manhunt by the FBI that lasted for decades, Cooper's identity and fate remain unknown. Some believe he didn't survive the jump. Others think he escaped and lived quietly under a false identity. This case is one of the most famous cold cases in U.S. history and was officially closed by the FBI in 2016. The Springfield Three. In 1992, 3 women disappeared from a home in Springfield, Missouri. They were 47-year-old Cheryl Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall. The night before, the 2 younger women had just graduated from high school. The next morning, all 3 were gone. There were no signs of a struggle. The women's purses, cars, and even the house dog were all left behind. Despite tips, searches, and national attention, no solid leads have ever solved this case. They are still listed as missing persons by the FBI. The boy in the box. In 1957, the body of a young boy was found in a cardboard box in Philadelphia. He was between 4 and 6 years old, naked and badly beaten. No one knew who he was. No one came forward to claim him. The media called him the boy in the box. The case haunted police and the FBI for decades. In 2022, after years of DNA research, the boy was finally identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. But even now, questions remain. Who killed him? Why was he left like that? The case may be closer to being solved, but it's still open. The Colonial Parkway murders. Between 1986 and 1989, at least 8 people were killed along Virginia's Colonial Parkway. The victims were all young couples, either dating or assumed to be dating. They were attacked in isolated areas. Some were strangled. Some were shot. Others were never found. The FBI believe the murders may be connected, but no one has ever been arrested. The case remains one of the most disturbing and complex cold cases in Virginia's history. The disappearance of Maura Murray. In 2004, 21-year-old college student Maura Murray crashed a car on a rural road in New Hampshire. A bus driver stopped and asked if she needed help. She said no. When police arrived minutes later, she was gone. Her phone, credit cards, and belongings were left behind. There was no sign of a struggle. The FBI got involved years later, but no trace of Maura has ever been found. Theories range from foul play to voluntary disappearance, but her fate remains unknown. The West Mesa Bone Collector. In 2009, a woman walking her dog in Albuquerque, New Mexico, discovered human bones. Soon, the remains of 11 women and an unborn child were found buried in the area. All of the victims were reported missing between 2003 and 2005. Most were Hispanic women in their 20s and 30s, many of whom had struggled with addiction or prostitution. The FBI and local police believe a serial killer was responsible, but no suspect has ever been arrested, and the identity of the West Mesa Bone Collector is still a mystery. The case of Tara Calico disappeared in 1988 while riding her bike near her home in Belen, New Mexico. She was 19 years old. Her bike was never found, and there were no witnesses. Months later, a Polaroid photo surfaced in a Florida parking lot, showing a young woman and a boy tied up in the back of a van. Many believed the woman was Tara, but the FBI couldn't confirm it. The case remains unsolved, and Tara has never been found. These are just a few of the many cold cases still open under the FBI's watch. Some have clues, some have possible suspects, but all of them are waiting for the missing piece that could finally solve the mystery. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, has handled thousands of high-profile cases in its history. One of the most famous is a case of the Unabomber, a domestic terrorist who eluded capture for nearly 2 decades. Who was the Unabomber? The Unabomber was a nickname given to Theodore Kaczynski, a former mathematics prodigy and domestic terrorist. Kaczynski carried out a nationwide bombing campaign against individuals involved with modern technology. He targeted universities, airlines, and businesses, hence the FBI case codename Unabomb, which stand for University and Airline Bomber. Over 17 years, he sent or planted 16 bombs that killed 3 people and injured 23 others. Kaczynski's actions were driven by his deep opposition to industrialization in modern society. He believed that technology was eroding human freedom and that violent resistance was necessary. Timeline of attacks. The first bomb was delivered in 1978 at Northwestern University. It injured a campus police officer. Over the next several years, other bombs were sent to professors, airline officials, computer store owners, and genetic researchers. In 1987, a witness briefly saw the Unabomber near the scene of an attempted bombing. The witness described a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt and sunglasses, an image that would later become iconic. Despite efforts, the FBI had few leads for years. Bombs were often mailed from different cities, and no fingerprints or solid physical evidence were found. The Unabomber was extremely cautious and methodical in covering his tracks. How the FBI handled the investigation. The FBI established a task force that included over 150 full-time agents. It was one of the longest and most expensive investigations in FBI history. They used traditional investigative methods such as interviewing witnesses, examining forensic evidence, and tracking mail records. Despite this, the Unabomber left no digital trace and used untraceable materials in his bombs. Profilers believed the suspect was likely a white male with advanced technical knowledge, possibly with a background in academia. However, this profile still left thousands of possible suspects. The investigation had few breakthroughs. The breakthrough, the manifesto. In 1995, the Unabomber sent a letter to the New York Times and the Washington Post, offering to stop the bombings if they published his 35,000-word manifesto titled Industrial Society and Its Future. The manifesto argued that technological progress had destroyed human freedom and was leading to societal collapse. He claimed that only by abandoning modern technology could humanity survive. After debate, the FBI encouraged publication of the manifesto, hoping someone would recognize the writing style or ideas. The manifesto was published in September 1995. It was a turning point. How the manifesto led to the arrest. After reading the manifesto, David Kaczynski, Theodore's brother, became suspicious. He noticed similarities in writing style and content between the manifesto and letters Ted had written years earlier. David contacted a lawyer, then the FBI. He submitted samples of Ted's earlier writing for comparison. FBI linguistics experts found strong similarities between the documents. At the time, Theodore Kaczynski was living in a small, remote cabin in Montana with no electricity or running water. Based on the evidence, The FBI obtained a warrant and arrested Kaczynski on April 3, 1996. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos on unsolved mysteries, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon.